That is all right.
It is gonna. Can everyone hear what I'm saying? Okay, good. It's now 5:30. It's time to call our meeting to order. We certainly appreciate each and every one of y'all being here. This is a lot different room, a lot bigger crowd than we've had in the past, and we hope that y'all appreciate the room. We do as commissioners. We'd like to welcome Dwayne Grice here with Grice Connect. He's always faithful to come and cover our meetings. For any latecomers, we have some seats here up front. And I would like to ask each one of you to silence your cell phone. You know they have a mind of their own. If they ring, if you will exit, go out to the corridor, answer it, then you can come back in and take your place again. Having said that, next in order is the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Rushing is going to lead us in that. And if y'all will stand, please.
Bow with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, I thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for the rain you've sent us, Lord. Lord, I'd like to ask a special blessing on some families in Bulloch County. Some have been in accidents, and some have some serious medical issues that need to be tended to. Just your will be done in their life, Lord, and just watch over them. Lord, I'd like to ask you to continue to be with our military and law enforcement and first responders and public safety, to all the ones that keep us safe and free where we can have these meetings. Please be with this commission as we make decisions. Let us make the best decisions for everybody that lives in Bulloch County. Lead, guide, direct us in everything we say and do. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to now ask Ms. Mincy White to call the roll for the commissioners.
I, Venus Mincy White, present as Clerk of the Board of Commissioners of Bulloch County, hereby call the roll for those on the governing body. All those present shall answer by saying aye. Chairman Roy Thompson.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ray Mosley. Commissioner Timmy Rushing.
Aye.
Commissioner Anthony Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Toby Connor.
Aye.
Commissioner Kurt Deal.
Aye.
Commissioner Jackie Stringer.
Aye.
I've determined that we have all members of the Board of Commissioners present. Therefore, we have a quorum to conduct business for the good of the citizens of Bulloch County. I now yield the floor back to the chairman.
Thank you very much. Well, before I call for a motion to approve the zoning agenda, I need to go over something with you tonight. And it's about the meeting, the planning and zoning meeting that was 2 weeks ago. These commissioners, in order for them to make an accurate decision, whatever that might be, they need to be able to hear the person that is speaking. They don't need any crowd interruption. And I was amazed and shocked at the crowd interruption last planning and zoning meeting. It should have never, ever happened. I can promise you it's not going to happen tonight. We have the sheriff back there. We have Deputy Thompson back there. We've got law enforcement here. I want to read you something. And this is coming directly out of the Bulloch County, Georgia Code of Ordinances. Can all of you hear me? The chairman of the Board of Commissioners is responsible for the orderly conduct of the meeting. That's my responsibility. The chairman shall not vote except in the case of a tie vote among the other 6 commissioners. The chairman then will vote to break the tie. That's the only way I will get to vote. I've only faced that one time in the last 6 years and 7 months. And this is the part that I want you to understand. Why we're not going to have a disorderly meeting. I hate to read this to you, but I've got to. We are not a kindergarten class. We're a bunch of grown adults, including y'all, trying to make a decision on what is right to do for the citizens of Bulloch County. This is decorum. Members of the public shall not make inappropriate or offensive comments at a board meeting. Individuals who violate any rules of the board may be ruled out of order by the chairman. An individual who violates the rules of decorum may be removed from the meeting at the direction of the chairman. Now, I'm not trying to play hardcore or anything like that. All I'm going to do, we're going to have an orderly meeting. Don't know if the sheriff would like to say anything. There's an invitation there if you would like.
Folks, listen, all of us grown in here. I'm gonna make it. Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
I respect every one of you and hope that a lot of you voted for me. If you didn't, then maybe you will next time. Not that's fine. The bottom line in all this is, when I like to speak, I like to be heard. Everybody here is gonna have a chance to be heard. Don't speak out when other people's talking, whether you like it or not. There's a lot of times that these gentlemen I may disagree, but I'm not mean or curse or anything like that to them, and they'll all answer it. Have I ever done that to any of y'all?
No, sir.
There's been times I've wanted to. We all get mad. We all get mad one another, but we have to keep our composure. All I ask for everybody to do here tonight is you will get a chance to be heard. And once your point has been made, you probably might have to tender to someone else, or your time has run out. Please keep it cordial. I will not tolerate any cursing in this room. He can remove you, but I can remove you and take you to jail. So I would give you a free one if you make a mistake, but there won't be a second one tolerated. Be removed on the first. Just let's work with one another. You can't get nowhere with all that anyway. I see some educators there, so you know you can't get with that. You have to do the best we can with it. Again, we just want to respect one another. Respect these gentlemen, they're gonna respect y'all. No cursing, not tolerated. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Sheriff. And I know some of y'all felt like that's probably my part was unnecessary. But, I mean, it's amazing that what happened at that last meeting. Some of y'all were there. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you were not there. You don't know what I'm talking about. Each side will have 10 minutes to discuss or say whatever you want to say. We will have speakers up here. If one speaker takes 4 minutes, the other speaker takes 4 minutes. They got 2 minutes to save for further comments. Then we'll switch or for rebuttal. I guess that's all I wanted to say. But please, let's have an orderly meeting. Is every vote we cast going to please everybody? No. But these men are going to make the best decision that they can on what they have heard from most of y'all. I'm going to now call for a motion approval of the zoning agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval.
Chairman,
Yes.
we have Commissioner Mosley. He's called in right now, so we may just want to slow down a little bit to allow him to make a motion as well, assuming that you'd like for him to vote.
Okay. I thought I heard him vote. Did I not?
Commissioner Mosley,
Yes,
do you approve the zoning agenda?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we will turn the zoning agenda over to Mr. James Pope, and he's got, gosh, I guess several items here. James, while you're getting that, let me make one additional comment. If all of y'all will look to your right, you will see a clock. That is the clock. It will be set on 10 minutes, and when it goes off, then your time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 tonight is a rezone request by Terry Grant, who has submitted an application to rezone 3 acres from an R25 residential 25,000 square foot lot to neighborhood commercial zoning. The purpose would be to establish a general business daycare facility. Property is located at 27 Bobby Stubbs Road. Mr. Tony Deal will be acting as agent tonight. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval with the conditions in the staff report by 4-0 vote. And the staff recommends approval of the rezone request with the suggested conditions. So this map here with the star gives you a general idea of where the property is located. It's just to the east of Statesboro along Georgia Highway 24. The property that is being requested for rezone is the smaller parcel outlined in blue that does go next to Highway 24. There is a single family home on the property which would remain and would not be part of the development itself. Bobby Stubbs Road is a county maintained dirt road. In this picture, you see this is Georgia 24 and Bobby Stubbs Road where it enters onto the state highway system. Included in your staff report is the site, I guess the proposed layout of the daycare facility, really just illustrating the proposed size of the facility and how the operations would work and the number of children that it would serve. Also included in your staff report is a narrative that was provided by the applicant, which I believe would kind of explain in detail what their interest is in the development of this property. And then this is the sketch plan that was provided by the applicant. Again, accessing Bobby Stubbs Road. As I have spoken with the agent prior to this meeting, and with this being a sketch plan for the rezone, this parking outline and flow would be subject to another approval with planning and zoning. So, it may change based on the true ordinance of how it would be administered. Okay, and so with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Tony Deal, who's agent for the applicant.
I'm scared to talk too loud. I don't want to get thrown out, Mr. Thompson, so I'll keep it low.
You're good.
All the paperwork I brought to hand y'all, Mr. Pope has already shown y'all on the display. I'm Tony Deal with Deal Contract Incorporated, representing the grants tonight for this rezone. Their business is a very needed business. There's like a 6-month waiting period right now for daycare centers, so it is a much needed industry in our region. Do y'all have any questions for me on this rezone?
Does anyone have any questions? Have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, maybe to, Mr. Pope, in regards to, has there been a request to the, state since this property enters from Highway 24 for, a state, traffic study? Or is that something that would be? So, and kind of in the transition between our pre-April ordinance is, we're still trying to work through, some of the transition. So this traffic study would be required prior to the sketch plan, when if it were, obviously approved tonight, it would go to a sketch plan phase as plan development, and then we would expect the traffic report to be presented at that time. So, I don't have a document to reference any specifics for. I may come back to that with comments later.
The grants advised me that Joey Cody's already had a traffic study done for that road due to those lots he's developing out there. So that data may be already available.
And so that would be something we would, again, take a look at, and the county engineer would have to, look at the analysis of it and how GDOT accepts it and whatnot. So.
Does the daycare meet the thresholds for a traffic study, I presume?
It does meet the peak hour flow, so that the morning and afternoon rates are over the minimum required. So, yeah.
But I think on the sketch plan, it doesn't suggest bringing any driveway access off of Highway 24. So I don't know if we shared this with the DOT, whether they would focus on the access to B stubs or to the property itself. I guess it depends on driveway separation.
Exactly. And then again, with whatever traffic report has been produced, would likely have to go back to that traffic engineer and plug in the different numbers with this specific development. So.
Thank you. I was just trying to give a little help to Commissioner Deal to understand the process and the flow.
You'll stop the clock now. I've been made aware that we do have someone that signed up to speak in opposition. So if you'll call that person up, please.
Cassandra Michael.
Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, my name is Cassandra Michael, and I'm speaking this evening on behalf of Ben Michael, Joe McKenna, who is here in attendance tonight. They are the landowners directly beside 27 Bobby Stubbs Road, and I'm also speaking on behalf of Helen Jackie Yates, a nearby homeowner. Mr. Michael, Ms. McKenna, and Ms. Yates would like to respectfully ask the Board of Commissioners to deny the rezoning request on Bobby Stubbs Road. While the rezoning proposal is a big improvement over the first daycare proposal from May, it is still inconsistent with the zoning of the adjacent properties. There's many points that the Bulloch County staff point out directly in their report that make the argument that the location is not suitable for a daycare. It isn't consistent with adjacent properties. It would adversely affect the use of surrounding properties. There's no reason that the property can't be used as the current zoning intends. It will cause an excessive or burdensome use of public facilities or services, and the rezone is not consistent with the purpose or intent of the proposed zoning district. There's also a future expansion zone shown in the drawings up there. There's a concern about how many additional children may eventually occupy this property that have not been included in the application. As Mr. Deal said, there was concerns if a traffic study had been performed and the necessity of maybe a turning lane off Highway 24 like Mill Creek Park has. Mr. Michael, Ms. McKenna, and Ms. Yates would like to respectfully ask the Board of Commissioners to deny the rezoning request on Bobby Stubbs Road. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Deal, would you like to say anything in rebuttal to that?
Not in rebuttal, but, well,
Well-
I just think, go ahead.
We said Mr. Dewey.
Mr. Deal.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I
No,
was looking at my notes. I'm sorry.
you're the number one, Mr. Deal.
Yeah.
In my world, Mr. Deal's my daddy, and he's at the house right now. I'm just Tony right now. I'm not sure about what future expansion she's talking about for more kids. That's not been relayed to me because right beside the daycare is going to be the playground. So no future addition has been conveyed to me. And as far as it not being appropriate for the area, everything from there back to the bypass is pretty much commercial in nature. So I'm not sure why this rezone would go against the needs of that area.
In the original proposal, they did have expansion, and I guess, I mean, it shows on there future expansion zone. And in the original proposal, they had a 5,000 square foot property and then a 3,000 square foot property. It looks like they want to start with the 3,000 square foot property, and looks like there's potential. So I mean, right now it's saying 258 cars are going to travel that Bobby Stubbs Road. If you add another potential 5,000 square foot building, how many more cars are going to be coming in and out right where people are starting to accelerate right past Mill Creek Park? I mean, that's literally where people put their foot on the gas and go, because the speed limit's 55 miles an hour there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
will you yield the floor so I can address a question to Mr. Pope, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just because I don't have the packet in front of me this evening, was there any intent that you're aware of for future expansion beyond what's currently proposed for, I think I heard the 3,000 square foot facility? Was there any documentation about that?
No, well, the narrative, I think the sketch plan that's showed on the TV screen there, may be the one prior to when the last meeting they presented a revised sketch plan that removed the future expansion. In the staff report, their site plan does not have that future expansion block. But with that said, just going by what the narrative says, a maximum capacity of 58 children, I would take that as that's what their design is. And I believe in planning and zoning, that was a phase. That's not what they were going to start with. That's what they would phase up to. But any expansion of a building or intensity of the use would require or them to come back to planning and zoning with a modification to their development.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that that kind of remedy existed if there was a thought of future expansion. In other words, go with the original application, I guess. I don't know how the use statement was made in the schedule of conditions, but if it requires additional clarity or accuracy as far as the scope or the footprint of the building, we may ask commissioners to consider that. Because the future expansion area, I can't make an assumption if it's a building footprint or not. It does look bigger than the current daycare center or the proposed daycare center. But in any event, I just wanted to make sure that we're not enabling rezoning that's going to allow them to expand beyond what they originally proposed. And I also think, am I not mistaken, there's a conditional use that comes behind this?
Yes, you're correct. The fourth condition we placed on the actual rezone of which we're talking about now mentions that expansion of any new or existing structures to accommodate the use would require application of a new conditional use.
Very good. Thank you.
And I see a hand raised, and this will be one of the owners or the owner. And she does have an opportunity to speak. And we have 7 minutes and 8 seconds if you'd like to come.
I don't have a whole lot to say. I just want to say about that. We had tried to submit the updated one so you could just mentally cross out that future expansion box. It's not supposed to be there. It should just end where that playground line ends. So we had originally done this one before the planning and zoning meeting. I submitted the new sketch. I think it's just a clerical thing. So, and my name's Elizabeth Grant, in case I need to say that.
Does any commissioner have a question or a comment from Ms. Grant? Thank you very much. Is there anything else for those that signed up to speak or the owner? Then hearing none, commissioners, you have any questions or any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I got another question, to Mr. Pope. I know a lot of things have been changed, but can you explain, neighborhood commercial as opposed to just regular commercial? Is that kind of like cottage industry? Well, the description of the different commercial, we have 3 commercial zones in our zoning ordinance: highway commercial, general commercial, and neighborhood commercial. A neighborhood commercial zone would be a use and a lot size that would, and location that would primarily service commercial activity for a neighborhood, hence neighborhood commercial. But it's not. They may not be on arterial routes or collector routes. It could be really kind of ingrained in a neighborhood. Some neighborhood commercials throughout the county you would see at crossroads of our communities just throughout the unincorporated county. But those type businesses are there to serve the greater neighborhood of where it's located, rather than attracting folks from across the whole county or even outside of the county into a location like, say, a car lot, which would be highway commercial. So it's just down to the neighborhood level of land use and intensity. And daycare, you may have some that come from 5-6 miles away, maybe 10 miles. I don't know, but it would not be an attraction so much that it would be required in a highway commercial zone. Well, I say that, but that's what a conditional use is for, and that's what we would get into in the next one. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing nothing else, and I will call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, just in light of the traffic on Highway 24 and just the unknown of the traffic study and also the paving, what may be required, maybe a decel or whatever the approach may be, especially with the volume that they're saying that they could potentially have. I will recommend or make a motion to deny.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any additional discussion? Got a question. I can't vote unless it's a tie, but I do want to ask a question. The houses that are being built behind this daycare center, am I correct that there are new homes being built behind it, or is that on another lot?
I think it's on the other side of Bobby Stubbs Road, adjacent to the proposed rezoning? In other
I think
words,
I know of a few houses just south down Bobby Stubbs Road, but beyond that, I don't know if there's not been a sketch plan filed for anything beyond Bobby Stubbs Road other than the 2 or 3 lots that I'm aware of. Now, just to the west is a recently final platted subdivision, the Fields, I believe, or the Plains. And so that's 10 lots just to the west that accesses Highway 24.
There are 6 homes being built currently. I believe it's 5 or 6. To the west, like he said, to the west of the proposed daycare.
And that zoning was R25 probably since 94. So they just went in through sketch plans. So that's probably, you may not be aware of that unless you ride by it. But the single family homes that are being built just to the south on Bobby Stubbs Road, those are already parceled out pieces of property. So they, were able to acquire the lots and build on them.
I guess my question would be, those homes though, and I'm not certain, I rode out there the other day and looked, those homes, do they enter and exit Bobby Stubbs Road to get to those houses? They don't. Okay. All right. That ends my question period. Then any other? I can't let you speak again. Your time is over. Sorry. Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? We got a motion. We've got a second. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. How did Mr. Moser vote?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes to deny.
Okay. Voted
to deny.
Okay. All right, then the motion is denied by unanimous decision, and move on to the next one.
All right. Mr. Chairman, item 2 would have been a conditional use related to item number 1. So we will move on to item number 3. Item 3 is a rezone application submitted by R&H Development Company to rezone 60.2 acres from Ag 5, agricultural 5 acres, to R40, residential 40,000 square foot lots, for the purpose of a single-family residential subdivision. The property is located on Schuman Road and Old River Road. Jim Anderson will be acting as agent. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends a deny by a 4-0 vote, and staff recommends a denial of the rezone request. However, if approval was granted or is granted, staff suggests a number of conditions in the staff report. All right, this is a map with a star showing the general location on Old River Road. This is the current zoning of the property. You'll see Old River Road. It is, I guess, the primary access for the property is just to the east, and the southern boundary of the parcel adjoins Schuman Road, which is a county-maintained dirt road. Currently, the property is used in an agricultural use. This is at Old River Road, where the property joins county-maintained paved road. And this is the rezone sketch that was provided by the applicant, which shows the approximate number of lots is being requested. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jim Anderson, agent.
Thank you, James. Chairman Thompson and board. I am Jim Anderson, local surveyor. I'm representing RNH Development Company, who is Mr. Robbie Bell. He's here to my left. Property is located on the west side of Old River Road, just north of Schuman Road, just south of Sharehouse Landing Road. Currently, the property is zoned Ag 5, which is somewhat non-restrictive. We're asking to rezone the 60 acres to R40, which is approximately 1 acre lots. Subdivision would have stick-built homes that we anticipate to range in the $325,000 to $350,000 range, including the lot and home. Have paved streets, community water system. We may have to decrease the number of lots from 62 to probably comply with the new subdivision ordinance to have 2 entrances. This sketch was drawn prior to the new ordinance being adopted, so we'll probably have to rework the sketch some. We have no concerns with the conditions that staff placed on it. We do have one comment to make about in the rezone standards, item number 7. It was stated that is the proposed, or the question is asked, is the proposed use supported by new or changing conditions not anticipated by the comprehensive plan? And staff answered that question, no. We believe that the conditions in this, our southern end of our county with the new car plant and supporting industries that will come along with that was not anticipated, and we're trying to fulfill the need to provide new homes in this area. We'd ask you to consider this rezone, and at this time I'd like to reserve some time to speak for Mr. Bell to come up and speak later. Thank you.
Well, I haven't had this before. I think, Mr. Anderson, we're going to have Mr. Bell come up and speak now, and then save time for rebuttal after the others get done. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Robbie Bell, and I am the developer of the subdivision. This is a 60-acre tract on Schuman Road that we're seeking R40 zoning, which equates to approximately 1 acre lots. This tract is all high land. It is flat, has very few neighbors directly adjacent to the tract. There are no floodplains. There are no wetlands. The soil is less desirable for agriculture, but excellent and well-drained for homes. It is an ideal tract for development. There's excellent road access to a recently repaved road. The staff review describes Old River Road as a low-volume, moderate-speed road, and the annual average daily traffic per the DOT is 640 per day. That's based on a 365-day year. This traffic counter sits between Schuman and Shearhouse Road, so less than a half a mile away. There are many similar roads known as minor collector roads like this throughout Bulloch County that have far more traffic on them than Old River Road. 640 is a very low threshold. Our site plan utilizes 1 curb cut on Old River Road, and all of the lots front the interior street system and not Old River Road or Schuman Road. Under this plan, Schuman Road will not be accessed at all. None of the traffic from this subdivision will empty onto Schuman Road. In addition, the site already has existing natural vegetation buffers along all sides except Old River Road. Biggest reason we're here is everything that's happening at the ports, but more specifically in the last year and a half is Hyundai, and the fact that we've got this super site with 8,000 jobs directly and many more jobs indirectly, and a lot of people coming to Bulloch County. The school board has recognized this, and they are talking about building a new high school, which be expanded to accommodate up to 3,200 students. The county youth commissioners are looking at raising the millage rate to offset inflation, but also to add services, hire additional personnel, EMS, law enforcement. The latest revision of the comprehensive land use plan has identified Highway 67 and Old 46 as a corridor for development and allowed a new zoning classification of R8, which will allow for 8,000 square foot lots with water and sewer extension that is on the drawing board. This is a fantastic plan, but the infrastructure is not in place yet, and it will be many years before it is. And we will have many people wanting to locate to the lower part of the county before this happens. That being said, our county is growing and developing. We're expanding our infrastructure to support these new jobs and new students, but we are lacking in housing. At a joint meeting in November between Bulloch County and the city of Statesboro, growth plans were shared that anticipated growth in the southeastern part of the county by 2030 is between 4,000 and 6,000 people, with a mid-range estimate of 5,184 residents for that area alone. With 5,000 new residents beyond normal growth, the area would need 2,000 new housing units in the southeastern portion of the county. For every day of the work week for the next 7 years, 5 days a week, we'll have to build a house every single day to keep up with this. Census data states that there are 2.42 people per household, so that lines up with a little over 2,000 based on approximately 5,000 new residents. I looked at Zillow today, and there are 9 houses for sale in Brooklet, the 30415 zip code, that range from 149 to 999,000. Of those, I believe only one is a new house. We desperately need housing in the lower part of the county. There are some nice houses along Old River Road that adjoins this site. Most of those are 2,500 square foot houses on 5-acre tracts that are selling for $420,000 and up. They're very nice homes, but there's just not the demand for those houses as there would be for smaller houses. And by smaller houses, we're probably looking at something around 1,900 square feet. The median household income in Bulloch County is $50,583. The per capita is actually about $25,000. So even with Hyundai and salaries in the low 50s, it's still going to be a stretch for a lot of the residents of Bulloch County. For a home that would be $420,000, you would have to spend $3,171 a month, which comes out to about $38,000 a year. I actually have a little handout on that. I'll just hand them to y'all. You can pass them out and look over them, but it shows you what it would actually cost to have one of these homes with insurance and taxes. Housing has truly gotten unaffordable for many people everywhere, not just Bulloch County. It's a problem throughout the United States, but we want to try to make housing as reasonably affordable as possible while still delivering a quality home in a quality subdivision that the county is proud of. The question that I'll leave you with is, where will the new residents of Southeast Bulloch be able to live? Because there's just nothing out there right now. Thank you. I'll reserve the last few minutes.
We have Mark Nemec.
Just a minute, before you start, I need to make an announcement. We've got, how many was it? 31 people signed up against. One person can take all the time, or you can split it up for a few seconds per person, but we've got 10 minutes. So, you can begin now.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, distinguished commissioners. My name is Mark Nemec, and I live on Schuman Road, about a quarter mile from the application site. First of all, I want to thank everyone in the commission for an opportunity to speak this evening. I also want to thank you for what you do every day for the residents and businesses in Bulloch County. I also want to thank the sheriff and tell him that I voted for him this year, or the last election. Before I continue, though, I would like to ask everybody that's opposed to this rezoning application that's present in the room to please stand up. This group behind me is only a small fraction of the residents in the community impacted by this rezoning application and who are in opposition to it. We have more than 600 signatures on a petition against changing this rural section of Bulloch County to a residential area. We realize our growth in Bulloch County is inevitable, but we are not convinced that this is the best and most suitable location for that growth to occur. Many of the people seated in this audience tonight see this rezoning application as a threat to the rural lifestyle, to the agricultural income of local farmers, and to the characteristics of the land surrounding our homes. Some of those seated in this audience are third and fourth generation farmers born and raised on this very land. Still others moved into this area to get away from the hustle and bustle of the big cities and the explosive growth in Chatham, Effingham, and Bryan counties over the last several years. Whether we have lived here for 1 year or 100 years, we all have one thing in common. We want to see this small part of Bulloch County, to remain agricultural and rural. My family moved here 8 years ago when I retired after 25 years of active duty service in the Coast Guard. During those 25 years, we frequently moved from place to place, living in large metropolitan areas. We grew weary of living in those tight spaces and high-density housing. That was the biggest reason for why we chose Bulloch County to be our permanent home. My wife's family has been living on this land for several generations. In fact, the very road we live on is named after her family. Even though I am working in Savannah, I chose to drive 45 minutes from Bulloch County because to me it was worth the commute to live in the peace and tranquility of that section of Bulloch County. Other families without ties to Bulloch County moved into this area to escape the urban lifestyle with its overcrowding and noise for the sole purpose of raising their children in a wholesome, grassroots type environment. These families represented in this room are a small sample of the many who recently moved into this community. Some of them spent their life savings to purchase land and build homes on 5, 10, 15-acre tracts on Sharehouse Landing and Old River Road. Their motivation was the opportunity to raise their families in a small, tight-knit community where people do not lock their doors or hide themselves inside. I'm speaking on behalf of them when I say they chose this area because of the rural character and the belief that this part of the county would remain unchanged and rural. But if this area will be rezoned to residential, it would defeat the reason why so many of them had chosen this section of the county to call home. The one positive thing that I can say regarding this rezoning application is that it brought all of our neighbors closer together and given us an even stronger sense of community there. Of the families represented here, some still actively farm the land or lease portions of the land to local area farmers. My wife and I lease most of our land to a family that has been farming in Bulloch County for generations. Still others have used this Ag 5 land to raise livestock. We raise chickens, goats, pigs, and mules. There are several homes that have horses and stables, and there's a number of horse farms in the surrounding area. My families are using their land to plant fruit orchard. I myself have several peach, pear, plum trees, and rows and rows of grapevines. There is even an orange grove with over 1,000 trees within a half mile of the application site. All of the community is committed to keeping the land for agricultural use, whether we are not farming or gardening or raising livestock, planting fruit trees, or just building a nice home for our families. These are not the only factors to consider when determining how this rezoning will impact the community. The final review and recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Department staff was to deny the application because they determined a subdivision in this section of the county would have no positive impact or benefit to the county. Another factor is how far removed this area is from public services. If you took a map with this application site at the center and made concentric circles going outward from that center, you would not see anything but rural land for miles and miles. Another factor, would it really make logical sense to drop a subdivision with 60 homes on available lands in the middle of all that open space? Wouldn't it make better sense to develop areas in close proximity to already established urban centers within the county and then extend outward from those centers? It is true I cannot stop my neighbors from selling their property, nor can I stop a developer from attempting to build on the land he recently purchased. But just because a parcel of land is available does not necessarily make it a wise and suitable choice for development. In conclusion, I am hopeful that you esteemed commissioners would take into careful consideration the viewpoints of the residents in this community that have come out here to this evening to voice their opinions in opposition to this rezoning application. Thank you for your time and thank you for your attention.
Michael Bailey.
Before we start, may I ask a question, Mr. Thompson?
Sure.
We want to save some time for rebuttal to Mr. Robbie's rebuttal. How do we do that?
He has 2 minutes. Am I correct? He has 2 minutes that he can speak.
Mhm.
You want him to have 5 minutes and 50 seconds, and you sit down and no one else speaks?
No, we want to speak.
Okay.
We want to speak, but we wanted to give him some rebuttal.
Well, he has
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay. My name is Michael Bailey. I sent an email to all the commissioners here, except for you, Mr. Thompson. I couldn't get your email to work, and to Mr. Connor. So I'm not going to cover all that. I do know that the 5-acre lots work. I see that. I listened to Mr. Robbie talk about the difference in the price, and it didn't sound like it was that drastic of a difference to me. I do know that maybe I'm old school, but a starter home's not $350,000. I didn't start out like that, so that concerns me. We have people from California, Ohio, North Georgia, Atlanta that have moved down here, and they've embraced our lifestyle. And these folks have invested large sums of money in these tracts across the road, and I don't think it's fair to drop a 60-house subdivision right across from them. I really don't. But I don't have much time, so I'm going to cut this short. Here's my concern. My biggest concern is if you approve this, you are opening the floodgates. It's not here. It's Bunch Road. It's Slaterhagen Road. It's several tracts of land up and down this that if you approve Mr. Robbie, why don't you approve him? If I was a developer, I'd say, hey, I want to do this. I want to do that. And then we're going to be like outside Statesboro. And that is not the lifestyle that we want, that we bought into. Now, I've been here 36 years. I'm in Bulloch County. My son was raised here, and I'm proud to call Bulloch County my home. I appreciate the time to be able to speak to the commissioners. Thank you. And I'm going to cut it short because 2 minutes. Thank you.
Carrie Mason.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to speak here tonight on this matter. It's very important to all of us, as you could see. These are our homes, our sanctuaries, and what makes it special. I'm going to be adding on to what they said a little bit. Myself, I've been here a year. This is home. We love it. We came from Massachusetts. I don't know if you know what that's like, but we're on top of each other. Hustle, bustle, everywhere. We came here for what we have. So did so many other families. And as I look out here, I see Tomas and I see Krista Haver. They came from Washington State to escape the development. I also see Easton and Selena. They only came from Georgia because where they were doing this development. And they came here with their little girl, Isa, and she gets to grow up on 5 acres of land being her playground. How amazing is that for her? All of us are here for this lifestyle. We knew what we were buying into. This is what we wanted. We knew we'd be away from amenities. That did not bother us. However, Mr. Bell did know that we were going to fight him on this, and he knew what the zoning was. So we are here still fighting for our homes because this is important to us. And this is the most important thing we have. Sorry, for our families and for us. You have something special. I promise you, you don't want to turn into these other states that do all of these things, the developing, the businesses, all of it. because exactly what Mr. Bailey said, the floodgate will open and the rest will come. And it won't be one, it'll be many. So again, please, Ag 5. That's what we want. That's what we bought into. Please keep it that way.
Eleanor Ellis. Suzanne Bailey. Kevin Smith. Jessica Smith. Paul Abel. Hillary.
He's coming.
Okay, Mr. Paul Abel.
Yes.
Can you do me a favor? You had on the screen with the star showing where the location was. I'm going to waive my time. Thank you.
Hillary, I think it's Seidman. Salmon. Okay. Pam Schuman. Bailey Schuman. John Schuman Sr. May Wiley. Sandy Helmley. Greg Helmley. Aaron Stroh.
Let me stop this. I'm going to stop calling the names out. Is there any one of you left that would like the 19 seconds? Okay.
My name is Tomas Silvar, 18 seconds go. Real quick, Mr. Bell talked about $350,000 homes. With $100,000, you can only afford $280,000 homes. So his calculation does not help anybody working at Hyundai. Thank you. 5 seconds left.
Anyone else would like the last 5 seconds? All right. Hearing no one or seeing no one step up, we'll let Mr. Bell. He can utilize his last 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
I'll be brief. There was a comment made about no positive impacts. And if you look at the staff reviews from the ones that I have seen in Bulloch County, most of them rarely have positive comments for residential development. I know you can get a positive for land use. That seems like that's one of the only ones that we've ever gotten before. Most of them are generally neutral or negative. As far as starter homes in the $350,000 range, there are several builders that are here tonight, and they'll tell you that that's kind of where we are at this point. It's just inflation. It sounds ridiculous to think it's $350,000 as a starter home. You go back 8 or 10 years ago, it was 120 to 150. Everything's just gotten expensive. Lots have gotten expensive materials. That's just where things are. We want to put a quality product out there that'll be an asset for the county. Thank you for your time.
Jim, you have anything to add? All right, then that will cancel out the hearing from the audience. We're going to turn it over now to the commissioners. Do you have any questions?
Question for Mr. Bell. I know it's not required for R40, but would you be open to the possibility of sidewalks and maybe the possibility of maybe a gate or a gated community?
I would consider a gated community. I don't know if that's the long-term best interest for the residents, because in a gated community, the county would not accept the streets.
Okay.
But if that is, the county wanted me to have a gated community, I would do that.
What about sidewalks?
I would have to see how many lots we end up with. We don't really know how many lots we're gonna have at this point, so what category we would be in. So I'm still kind of up in the air on that. I know we will lose some lots to detention. And it might even be with having two entrances that we opt to go under 50 lots. That is a possibility. I know we haven't picked a number of 63, but I do not believe it will yield 63 lots.
Okay.
I ain't got really nothing to, but just make a statement. I don't have any questions on this one, Mr. Chairman. But we did. I want to remind all the commissioners, not earlier this year, we just turned down this same thing right down the road from this. So what's good for one is good for all. Just want to remind them of that.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Mosley wants to comment.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Commissioner Mosley.
Mr. Chairman, I just had in addition to the question that Mr. Dale just had, would it be possible for Mr. Bell to work out some additional details and have less density and still make this project work? Is my question.
Would the chairman yield to the county manager, please?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Mosley, I'll attempt to answer that question as best I can. I think if you're suggesting that you wanted to put that in a motion for a deferral, which would bring the application back next month, I believe, if you wanted to make that consideration, my recommendation would be to put that in the form of a motion. But if you're at a present stage for discussion where you want to hear feedback from the other commissioners before you do so, I then yield the floor back to the chairman.
All right. Commissioner Mosley is asking, is it possible, if you've not gotten enough information, to defer it?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, I would make a motion that we defer this zoning item to our next meeting. I would hear all the comments from the citizens in the area. I agree 100% that we need to have more housing, but at the same time, I'd like to see if there was a way that we can meet somewhere in the middle and still make this project work. So that being said, I would like to offer motion that we defer it.
We have a motion to defer. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
And that's a deferral to the next
Next commissioner meeting.
meeting in September. Is that right? First meeting in September.
That is correct, sir.
We have a motion, second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries 4-2 vote that we will defer this meeting to this decision to the next meeting, and that will be the first meeting in September. All right, we'll call the next one.
Is there any way I could say one tiny thing?
No, ma'am. That meeting is over. Yes, ma'am.
Ready for me to proceed? Okay. Agenda item number 4 is a rezone request by Mr. John Keene, who's submitted a request to rezone 5 acres from R40 to an Ag 5 zoning for the purpose of operating a general business, which has been identified as archery pro shop and range. The property is located at 462 Youngblood Road. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval with conditions by 4-0 vote. And staff recommends approval of the rezone request. This is a map with the star outlining the approximate location of the property. This parcel is outlined in blue. This would be the rezone to Ag 5. The access is through an easement from an adjacent property onto Youngblood Road. This is an aerial of the property. It's currently being used. There's a single family structure on the property. And this is the approximate location of where the applicant would like to locate the archery pro shop and range at the the southeast corner of the property. This is the entryway into the property. Again, it enters and exits the property through an easement, recorded easement onto Youngblood Road. Staff conditions do address some paving along the right of way, what you see from the pavement there on Youngblood out to approximately where that truck is parked. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. John Keene as applicant.
Okay. Thank y'all for having me. I guess, have y'all got any questions for me of any sort?
Questions? No questions or comments. I'm going to call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second. We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5 tonight is a conditional use request, being a the use would be a home occupation cottage industry, which is available in Ag 5 zoning for an archery pro shop and range, as well as anything kind of that goes along with that archery pro shop. The property is located at 462 Youngblood Road. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval with conditions by 4-0 vote. The staff recommends approval of the conditional use request, and conditions are suggested. Again, the previous agenda item had different conditions that were related to anything that was of concern for the property being ag, which maybe there was not any, but nonetheless, we do have conditions in this agenda item that again go to the specific use as being proposed. So with that, Mr. John Keene, if you have anything to say.
I'm back again. And I went through all the conditions. I don't have any problems with it. I mean, y'all weren't asking for a gold dome or anything like that. So that was good. So I had no problems with any of the conditions that were requested.
All right. Any questions? I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to approve.
Have a motion second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval, and Commissioner approves also. Congratulations.
Okay, thank y'all. We'll keep praying for you.
Item 6 tonight is a rezone request by Mr. Robert Poole, who has submitted an application for a rezoning of 10 acres from Ag 5 to a highway commercial zone for the purpose of operating an automotive sales and rental facility, automotive parts and accessories. And next, agenda item 7, if this is approved, for the conditional use as an automotive repair location. Property is located at 30350 Highway 80 in Portal, Georgia. Annette Poole will be acting as agent tonight. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval with conditions by a 4-0 vote. And staff recommends approval with the conditions that are listed in the staff report. On the map again is the star. If you look just to the west of Portal, halfway between Portal and the county line along Highway 80. Some may know this as a previous use as, I guess, a junkyard for automobiles. And this is the property is shown highlighted in blue. Surrounding zoning is Ag 5. The Highway 80 does meet the requirements of a highway commercial zone, being a main arterial route through the county. This is an aerial of the property. I don't have a specific date for that use, but there is a previously built structure that served the prior use for the junkyard. This is a sketch that is provided by the applicant, which will show the auto sales lot and then use of the shop and office in the front. So this is the property. Again, when we place the zoning notice signs, there is a single family structure across the roadway. And it's currently, I guess, they're in preparation of operating the business, and then they were advised that they would have to go through the zoning procedures to obtain the use, and that's why we're here tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Poole.
Okay, we've done, if you've seen this property before, it was horrific. It was in very poor condition, and we've done quite a bit even since this. We've put up new fencing. The roof has been redone. The building, we have made it more structurally safe. We've redone the electrical, and we plan on just doing a few auto sales. And the only reason we're doing the light body, light mechanical is for our own use. We're not going to be working on other people's, and we're just doing mainly antique vehicles. So we're not going to be, it's not going to be overwhelming to the neighborhood. And I think we've done quite a bit to make this a lot better than what it was originally, because it was in pretty poor condition when we purchased it. The only thing we were curious of is the concrete that you have to put down whenever you have auto sales to put the cars on. That's what a lot of our concern was, because we had planned on putting millings down to put the cars on. Not just on the ground itself, but the millings would be, it's better for the economy anyways than having a bunch of concrete and asphalt put down, because we're not going to have a ton of cars out there. And the cars that we have that was in the picture in the back and such, those are the ones that we are planning on rebuilding ourselves so that we can sell them. And we've just been trying to store them up so that we're prepared for whenever we do. So,
That would require a variance, wouldn't it?
Right. So what I was going to say is there's a number of supplemental standards in which I believe our zoning administrator provided those to you, and I think that's what you're referencing.
yeah, because the only thing that was in there, I'm sorry, is that is for the concrete or the asphalt, and then if you see the building's already facing this towards the road, but we do have doors that we can shut. You know, if he does, if he's working on vehicles and stuff. And then as far as hiding the vehicles in the back, we can put up, a wood fence with screening, if nobody's wanting to see the cars. But the cars, I mean, we're not putting out cars there that are taken apart, per se, as, a lot of junkyards do. They have cars out there that are, torn apart and such as that. And that's not what we're trying to do.
So we would have to work through that,
Okay.
Through planning and zoning and any variances
Okay.
that would apply. There's always a variance to relief. Now, whether it makes it to this board is variances typically do not, but that would just be worked through
Okay.
the planning process at this stage.
All right. I understand.
Isn't that, that's do it Bolton's old junkyard?
Yes, sir.
That it?
Yes, sir.
Been a junkyard all my life, ain't sure. I know it, but that's what I'm saying.
We've done a lot of
Saying
work for the past year.
They bought and sold cars all my life, so I didn't know. I was determined if that was it or not.
The thing about the thing about this one, a lot of these cars wouldn't know how to react sitting on concrete, and the millings are fine
They'll probably go in shock.
because of. No, that's just
Yeah.
me talking. You've got some beautiful antique vehicles up there, trying to keep yesteryear alive.
Yes, and we're trying to keep them original, and we just don't.
I, for one, appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, and I know y'all got some things to work through, but any questions from the commissioner? Then I'm going to ask for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion, second, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval.
With condition.
With condition.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Item 7 also involves Mr. Robert Poole. Item 7 is a conditional use request for automotive repair for the property located at 30350 Highway 80 in Portal. Again, Ms. Poole will be acting as agent for the conditional use of automotive repair. Planning and zoning recommended approval with conditions by 4-0 vote. The staff recommends approval of the conditional use request. I don't really have anything new to add to that other than the development would again fall under some additional standards, 1408, which is automotive repair, and 1437, which would be a planned commercial development. So really probably most things are alleviated through the standards and what's already in the ordinance. So with that, we just recommend approval. So.
And I think you pretty much discussed it in your first presentation.
Yes.
So I'm going to make this easier for you.
Absolutely.
Do we have any questions from the commissioner? Comments? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept this conditional use.
Second.
Motion, second, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval.
Thank you.
And we've got Mr. Mosley on there too. Thank you very much.
All right, agenda item 8 is a condition modification request by Mayberry Land Holdings LLC, who has submitted an application to modify the conditions approved by this board, the Board of Commissioners, on November 15th, 2022. The request is to modify conditions number 4, 6, and 10. Property is located on Josh Deal Road. Mr. James Anderson will be acting as agent. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the following modified conditions by a 4-0 vote. And this is reading from the staff report. Condition 4, Planning and Zoning agreed with the staff recommendation. Condition 6, they agreed with the staff recommendation. Under condition 10, Planning and Zoning recommends modification of the condition to replace registered landscape architect with the wording professional engineer. And so for staff recommendation, again, referencing the staff report, for number 4 condition, which involves the inclusion of vinyl siding as an exterior finish, this is the decision sheet in which the conditions are read. The staff recommends that wording for condition 4 be replaced in entirety, which is a copy or mirror from the current zoning ordinance that was adopted in April, which includes vinyl siding and achieves the result as the applicant is asking for. On item 6, the request is to deals with the whether the prior to the certificate of occupancy, the yard of a single family home is planted in the front, side, and rear yards. The condition mentions the rear yard. However, the new zoning ordinance, I guess, provides some relief there to where it would just be to the rear drip line. So staff recommends modification to number 6 to again mirror what the zoning ordinance says from April, the current zoning ordinance, which again I believe provides the relief they're seeking. And then staff recommends a denial to condition number 10, which they're asking for, rather than a landscape architect prepare a master landscaping plan, they're proposing to insert or replace the wording with professional engineer. So staff recommends a denial on that. However, at that point, Planning and Zoning recommended professional engineer. So hopefully followed along with what I said. But in the page 4 of the staff report, again, is language that we recommend replacing for condition 4 and 6. And you heard, about condition 10. And with that, these are the photos of the property. Again, it was rezoned in November. The new landowner, they've acquired the property and now trying to get a sketch plan approved, which we'll deal with that in agenda item 9. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jim Anderson.
Thank you, James. Chairman Thompson and board. Basically, I'm going to try to simplify. This property was rezoned back in, first of all, let me back up. I'm Jim Anderson again, and I'm representing Mayberry Holdings, and they're made up of Lisa Hodges back in the back and Stephen Sowers who's a local builder, and Wes Simmons is a member of that group as well. And it was rezoned, and there were some 35 conditions placed on the rezone back when the Russians had the property. And Mayberry has acquired the property. We were okay with all of the conditions, but 3 of them. And condition 4 did not allow vinyl siding to be used as a veneer on the buildings, and we're asking that you allow us to do that. Condition 6 basically asks for the front, side, and rear yards to be totally grassed or have a good standard grass before a certificate of occupancy could be issued. And we're asking to be able to comply with the new wording in the new subdivision ordinance that would require us to grass the front, side, and to the drip line of the rear of the house. In condition 10, if we have a buffer on this subdivision, a vegetative buffer, that buffer would, in the wording that was put in on the conditions in the rezone, would require a landscape architect to have to design that. And we're asking that that wording be changed to a professional engineer. We have Hussey Gay Bell on staff to help us with the engineering on this project. And they feel they're capable of helping us with the landscape plan. And we would ask that that language be changed from landscape architect to professional engineer. I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Planning and zoning passed all 3 modifications to the conditions when we met with them a couple of weeks ago, and we'd ask that you approve these modifications to these conditions. We'll answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would you yield the floor to the county manager, please? Yes, sir. Just so I make sure that I'm understanding everything, I think with conditions 4 and 6, what the staff is recommending substantially achieves what the developer originally wanted to do. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And then the only conflict is with condition number 10, correct? With regard to the professional engineer, using a professional engineer for landscape plan versus a landscape architect.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Will the chairman allow me to ask Mr. Anderson a question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to understand why you would use a professional engineer versus a landscape architect, and then I have a follow-up question.
Okay. Well, Hussey Gay Bell is our engineering company. They have offices in Statesboro, Savannah, Atlanta, Blue Ridge, Charleston, Columbia, Greenville, and Nashville. They tell us they do landscape plans in these cities all the time. So we feel they have the experience and the expertise to do a landscape buffer. This is not a deal breaker for us. We can go out and hire a landscape architect. So we're not adamantly opposed to this at this point if that becomes a deal breaker on this situation. But we've got engineers on staff that feel like they could provide this service.
Well, the reason I bring this up is that typically, and I don't know if Hussey Gay Bell has landscape architects on staff. I'm assuming that they don't, based on what you're telling me. However, it's pretty common knowledge that if you look, say, for example, in the Bureau of Labor Statistics with the Federal Department of Labor, they regularly do occupational surveys. And it's pretty common knowledge that a landscape architect makes about 25% less of a salary than a civil engineer does. And based on that, if you have a firm like Hussey Gay Bell who may, for example, charge $250 an hour for expenses or an hour plus expenses for an engineer, it's logical to conclude that they're probably only going to charge about $200 an hour for a landscape architect. So having that knowledge, I would assume that it's much less expensive for the developer to hire a landscape architect based on the different skill sets, not diminishing what a civil engineer can do. I mean, anybody who's in design, architect, engineer, whatever, can draw, but a landscape architect understands all of the elements related to how you fix the design of what goes on the ground with the plant material, with the necessity for irrigation and other cultural practices. So in that regard, if there was a landscape architect in the room and a civil engineer in the room, I think the landscape architect may be mildly offended at best if it was suggested that a civil engineer could do their work and vice versa. Nonetheless, whatever the county commissioners decide is perfectly fine, but I thought it was important to bring up that factual distinction.
Again, we asked for the commission to modify this condition, but it is not a deal breaker for us. If the wording landscape architect needs to be in there for us to move forward, we're okay with that. Thank you.
Let's go.
Lisa Hodges. Do you need to speak? Okay. Lynn Fatika.
He's what?
He deferred both.
I don't know how this will go down, but I'm gonna give you a suggestion. If you have to get a landscape architect, I think I could do this from here. Andy Burns is doing some work and found one. I think it was in Conyers, Georgia. However, use that information if you need to. If not, then we're gonna now turn it over to the commissioners. Y'all have any questions? Any discussion? Comment? If there is none, then I'm gonna call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to make the motion based on the staff recommendations, approve the recommendation on condition 4, 6, and then denial on 10.
Okay.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Mr. Mosley, so. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will say this is my first appeal that I've handled since being here at Bulloch County. So Jeff, if I get out of turn or what procedure wise we need to do, just stop me. But item 9 is an appeal to the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision dated July 13th, 2023, which was the conditional approval of the Mayberry subdivision sketch plan condition number 3. Condition 3 being what was attached to a sketch plan, not the rezone. That would just not that case, but there's 3 conditions on the sketch plan. The property is located on Josh Deal Road. The staff recommends a denial of the appeal request for the deletion of condition 3. So condition 3, as you see on the screen, said that the developer shall amend the sketch plan to provide for an additional roadway as exhibited in the staff report as part of exhibit titled Staff Recommended Additional Roadway for Connectivity. The location of the roadway is displayed in red as part of the exhibit. So that's the aerial of the property. This was the sketch plan that was provided to the Planning and Zoning Commission at the time of the sketch request. The plan was approved to develop in 2 phases, as you see, roughly, dividing that property in half, as you see in the phase 1 and phase 2, north and south. The staff recommendation that is tied to condition 3 placed on there by the Planning and Zoning Commission is directly related to this map here, which is shown in red. It's drawn by staff of Bulloch County. This is an amendment to the sketch plan by Planning and Zoning, which would require an additional roadway in that approximate location, in which would be worked through at the preliminary plat phase. So, as I've also provided in the staff report, a list of the 3 conditions that were placed on the sketch plan, of which they would have to comply with. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jim Anderson, who is the agent.
Thank you, James. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I'm going to pass you out a little packet. I've got several pieces of paper in there, but and the bigger handout is really a duplicate of what James showed you with a red area that condition 3 to the sketch plan approval was asking the developers to put in an additional roadway for connectivity. This additional roadway would come in there between lots 37 and basically take out lot 36 and take out lot 37. We would ask this board not to require the developers to add this additional road, and I'll try to give some reasons why. This board and this county just put the county in a moratorium, and we've just had a reworking of our subdivision ordinance. It was approved and adopted by the board and is now into effect. And we drew this proposed plan for Mayberry, trying to meet all the requirements of the new subdivision ordinance. It's our opinion we've done a good job of doing that. We've provided 2 entrances to this subdivision. On this little sketch I handed out to you, we will be required to put in sidewalks in this subdivision. They're kind of outlined in little thin red lines around the perimeter of the entire subdivision. We'll be required to put in curb and gutter. And our traffic study shows we're going to probably have to have some right turn lanes out on Josh Deal to get into subdivision. So we feel like we have complied with the brand new subdivision ordinance, and we're meeting those requirements. Again, the developers are Ms. Hodges and Mr. Sowers and Wes Simmons. They have made a pretty large investment in this property to try to develop a new subdivision. The yield or the number of lots that they can generate out of this property is important. Mr. Connor, you understand yield. You're a farmer. You know what that means. When you put seed in the ground, you want to produce. Mr. Thompson, you in the carpet business, and you know what it means to get so many yards a day by your people on the floor. We all have to deal with how much we can produce, and these developers need every lot they can to make this project work for them. And to put in this road is we're going to require reducing that number immediately by 2. We'll have to add 450 feet more roads and asphalt at a cost of about $45,000. We'll have to add about 450 more feet of sidewalk at a cost of about $5,000. 900 more feet of curb at a cost of $18,000. We're going to lose 2 lots that are probably worth $50,000 each. And we're going to lose the profit that the developers would stand to make on each one of those houses that would be on those 2 lots. This is going to impact the developers by $250,000 plus in loss to their investment. Every lot on this subdivision will have access to both entrances. On this picture I showed you, we're proposing to add a 3-way stop that would be a midway up the road on the right. It would be a way to calm traffic. I handed you out some information on this piece of paper right here. This is the landings, a picture of the landings in Savannah. The landings has 4,422 homes on it. There's one way in and one way out. Tybee Island has one way in and one way out. Hilton Head Island has one way in and one way out. People live in these situations every day. These developers or these builders are local people. Ms. Hodges has been developing and building in this county. She's 2nd generation builder. Stephen Sowers has built over 600 homes in this county. It's pretty much public knowledge that the big box builders are coming to Bulloch County, and these local developers are going to have to compete with them. This addition to this additional street will also create 2 additional points of conflict. There'll be 2 more intersections that would be conflict for traffic. There are no roads, no trees in this subdivision right now. We propose to probably have rollback 3-inch high curb. There'll be sidewalks. If you did have a tree fall somewhere, I don't think it'd be out of the question for the fire truck to drive across a 3-inch curb and put a tire on the sidewalk and move on through there and get to where it needs to go. We would ask that you help these local developers and not require this additional costly street. And we'll try to answer any questions you may have. I thank you.
Anybody else? Sign up. Okay, it's time for questions from the commissioners.
We got Ben. You see any problem with this? Did you see that? If you don't mind coming up, you don't mind you putting me on the spot, and I'm gonna put Noel on the spot next, and Mr. Sheriff on the spot next. If they ain't got no problem with it, I mean, I don't either. But if y'all find a problem here, let me know.
Well, in the staff meeting, we discussed this, obviously, this
the problems with this. The problem is in phase one, you do have 2 entrances, but when you add phase 2 in, there's only one entrance to get to the back. So the reason to have the second connected road is to ensure you have a second road for emergency services to get back there to the back. Then truly every lot will have access to 2 entrances. That's on Josh Steele Road. That was our thinking behind adding this road. I mean, to us, it just made sense to do that.
Thank you, Bill. You the same way with that, or you got something else to add, Mr. Sheriff?
They're stacked in Holland's houses, right? I missed it. I was outside talking to somebody. I'm asking you.
That yeah, that's houses. The red lines. That's another road they want to put to be able to access that phase 1 and phase 2 there. You should looking at the same thing I am.
I would ask that, is there any way we might go out and look at it in person, because I see a lot of factors of interest in me trying to get into something happens in there, major, because it looks like maybe a college setup, I think.
Well, I think it's undeveloped right now. That's just lines on a piece of paper. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to have your folks who do traffic control want to look at it, but
I'd like to look at it a little further before I even, pass any judgment on it. Just the fact it looks mighty clustered. Somebody need to get there and take care of something, breaks out in there with a block party or whatever. That'd be pretty rough trying to get help in there. A lot of hiding places, a lot of, little like me, you'd have to climb over the houses. I hope there's some aisles in between the houses, aren't there?
These are single family residential family homes.
So we got fences in between.
This will not be college housing.
Gotcha. Thank you,
Where's
bud.
it located at again?
G.
Josh
Rush
Steele.
Peanut Plant.
I come in at the end of it. I was outside talking.
Thank you.
I'd like to look at it further though without passing the judgment.
Any more comments? And I'll ask for a motion. Not hearing a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the appeal.
Okay. I have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands.
Aye.
And, all right. Mr. Mosley also voted to deny, so it's unanimous decision to deny this request. We'll move along to item number 10.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 10 tonight is a request by the Bulloch County Planning and Development Department to amend the text of the zoning ordinance, which will introduce or modify text definitions for commercial cryptocurrency mining, cryptocurrency data center, cryptocurrency server farm, dispenser of low THC oil, high density load service, and personal care home. Also to modify section 1005A1, which is water supply of Appendix C, to modify the use standards text for section 1418 daycare facility in a residential zone, and to add a new section 1452 to establish supplemental standards for dispensers of low THC oil, and to modify section 802 commercial and industrial principal uses to include liquor stores. And of course, I'll be representing the case tonight. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a 4-0 vote. And what you have in the staff report is the text that would be inserted into the zoning ordinance. These modifications or additions, I'll try to explain high level, and then I do have Mr. Ben Ross, who's here from Forest Heights Pharmacy, who's knowledgeable about the low THC oil. And so I won't try to get into details of that. I'll let him explain it. But so we're proposing a resolution as your staff report, which would insert, again, the text, but the items related to cryptocurrency, I'll just say that there are no new cryptocurrency mines trying to come in or anything like that. It's not really related to anything new. It's just that in April, when we passed the zoning ordinance, we knew that we probably overlooked a few things, and we realized that we left out the definitions for cryptocurrency and everything related to that. So for us to adequately identify what a cryptocurrency mine would be, we needed to add back this text, and we can't just do that as at the staff level. So we need your approval. The personal care home, that relates to a change of the state agency that monitors or regulates personal care homes, and then the rules and regulations from that department. Those numbers change in reference with our definition, so we just wanted to bring that up and get that to where we could adequately administer the zoning ordinance if a personal care home were to come before y'all. The water supply, we realized that we changed the water supply and fire flows that were required in a community water system in the subdivision regulations. But Article 10 relates to the manufactured home parks and the fire flows that would be required in that. So those numbers just got missed when we really weren't looking at manufactured home parks when we were going through the ordinance rewrite. So that was just proposed so that bring those, again, in compliance with or how it's stated in the subdivision regulations. The daycare facility, that section relates to one in the use chart. We had the identification of a supplemental standard available or that would apply in commercial zones. However, realized in the section 1418 it only said residential. So for those to apply, we submit the minor text changes where it would apply in commercial zones. And that was, I believe, discovered when we started going through the previous case of the night. But and then dispenser of low THC oil, that closely follows what the state law allows. And I would let Jeff or Mr. Ross explain that. But and then the addition of liquor stores into the use chart, that would be, again, there was a referendum that passed related to distilled spirits or liquor stores. Previously, well, we knew that we'd have to come in at some point and add that to the use chart in zoning. So this would allow for liquor stores in a highway commercial zone only, and they'd have to go through a conditional use process and be subject to the supplemental standards in Article 14. So that way, each liquor store that would try and develop would come before y'all so that you can look at the property specific concerns. At least that's how we present it. With that, Mr. Ross, if you'll step to the podium and explain Section 1452, dispenser of low THC oil, and really, so there was a recent change in the state law that allows pharmacies to become dispensers of low THC oil. Well, for that, we had to kind of address it in zoning so that, we would be able to allow for dispensers in the pharmacies. But again, I'll turn it over to Mr. Ross.
Yes, sir. Question for you.
Yes, sir.
So we won't get long-winded and drawn out. Some up here need a break. Can you do this in 5 minutes?
Sure, absolutely.
5 minutes.
So basically my name is Ben Ross. I'm a pharmacist. I've been dispensing medications in Bulloch County to Bulloch County patients for 15 years. And basically I'm just asking to be able to continue to offer my patients these low dose medicinal cannabis. This is medicinal cannabis. This is not recreational. There is nothing recreational about it. There is no leaf form, which means there's nothing you can smoke, no vape form. There's no food induced products, so we won't have tutti frutti gummy bears that your kids could accidentally take. These are capsules. These are tinctures, oral tinctures, and these are topicals. The state of Georgia has made this legal. Medicinal cannabis is legal in Georgia. There are multiple dispensaries opening up in the state. There's 2 that have opened up in Pooler. Botanical Sciences opened up one last Wednesday, and then Trulieve had one, I think, maybe 2 weeks before that. So these medications are going to get dispensed. I'm excited that the state of Georgia has seen the value of the pharmacist and the role the pharmacist can play, and has allowed pharmacists to dispense these medications. We're the only state in the country that's going to allow it, but we would need a variance because we are within 1,000 feet from a church. So I guess that's the reason, that I'm here today, is to ask that you will just continue to let me just dispense these medications. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I might just clarify, Mr. Ross, you will have to apply for a variance
So
once
correct,
this is approved.
Yeah.
So
And then we will also have to apply for a license through the Georgia Board of Pharmacy. So we will have to get a license to dispense this. So it's not like I can just start dispensing it once I get this variance.
And then further, if I may add, there are dispensaries that are non-pharmaceutical, and this prohibits that. It's only pharmacies like what Mr. Ross is saying. It's not what you may see in other parts of the state. It's just pharmacies.
So the alternative would be a dispensary could come in. They wouldn't have a pharmacist on staff. Obviously, this is what I was trained to do: dispense. We collaborate with doctors. We safety is important. We're going to be checking drug interactions, all this. A dispensary, they could have an 18-year-old kid in there selling it. So obviously, we think the pharmacy method is the best method, but obviously I'm biased. I'm a pharmacist.
Is that what opened in Pooler?
That's what opened in Pooler.
A dispensary.
Both of those are dispensaries. Correct.
Can you differentiate between THC oil and CBD?
Absolutely. So so what's currently on the market, the CBD products in the state of Georgia can have up to 0.3% THC. Anything over that is illegal. These products will have up to 5% THC. So they're still considered low dose, but they're obviously a lot stronger than what's on the market. Also, as you probably can tell, the CBD could be leaf form. You can have all the different gummies, the food and products. These will not have that. It will, like I said, it will be the products that I stated earlier.
And the CBD doesn't fall under the state's.
So CBD, to be considered CBD, you have to have less than 0.3%. So that's already, I guess, is already legal.
So the state enables pharmacies to do this for either pharmaceutical purposes or related medicinal purposes according to state law, but you're unable to dispense what the state allows you to because you need to have this zoning in place in order to get a state license. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I think ultimately that's the simplicity of it, and it's very much distinct from these so-called commercial dispensaries you see in Pooler and the like. You could not, if you approve this, only pharmacies could do this according to state law. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
And then I'll say too, Mr. Chairman, there is a plethora of technical amendments here. I think the liquor is pretty self-explanatory because we did a or the liquor stores, because we did a good amount of due diligence on it going back before the election. And very simply, they'll be allowed in HC zones only. Is it by conditional use with supplemental standards?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So, and then that'll probably connect later with the alcohol ordinance changes that are recommended later in the meeting. Assuming that that's passed, then we'll fully be able to begin the licensing process for distilled spirits. So I just wanted to clarify that, but I think Mr. Pope thought it was important that you understood in particular what's being done with the low THC oil and what Mr. Ross wants to do. So certainly I hope that was clarified for you and for law enforcement as well.
So we need to approve
Well,
the text amendment definitions.
we would recommend securing a motion to approve all of the text amendments that have been recommended to the zoning ordinance.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion, we have a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, show of hands. And raise.
Aye.
Unanimous approval. If you will, I'm gonna test you now. We'll set the clock at 10 minutes and 33 seconds. We are going to have a 10-minute and 33-second break.
Charlie Chaplin down there. Three Stooges.
We're going to reconvene our meeting at present time. Before I entertain a motion to approve the general agenda, do we have any other discussion or modifications desired by the county manager or the board?
County manager isn't on this evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Or none others, then I need a motion to approve the general agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous approval. First on the agenda is a public hearing for road abandonment closure. County Attorney Jeff Akins will be the facilitator.
Yes, sir. I'll start off and then I'll ask Brad to chime in. But we did receive a petition from the property owners on Melrose Road to abandon it. And the proper ads have been run in the newspaper and a letter was sent to the property owners. And the standard, and you know this because we've said it before in other situations, is if you find after conducting the public hearing that it ceased to be used by the public to the extent that no substantial public purpose is served by it or its removal from the county road system is otherwise in the best public interest, then you can adopt the resolution that's included in your packet to certify the abandonment of the road. And I'll let Brad add to that.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. On Melrose Road, well, the road is about 0.35 miles long. There is one property owner that owns both sides of the road, and they are obviously the applicant in this case. We did post signs on each end of the road advising of the public hearing for the proposed abandonment, and we have not gotten any comments from anyone so far.
All right. Thank you very much. I will ask now for a motion to open the floor to public comments for the abandonment of County Road number 228, also known as Melrose Road.
So second.
Motion, second discussion. All those in favor, show of hands. All right. We now are open to the public for discussion. Does anyone here have an opinion for or against? Yes, sir. If you'll state your name and address.
All right. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, staff, thank you all for entertaining our petition. My name is Luther Denton. My friends call me Trey. I'm here with my wife, Wendy, and a neighbor, Keith Coring. Hopefully they're both here in support. And hopefully all of you will find this one of the more dull parts of your agenda tonight, we hope. We have been fortunate enough to acquire the land on both sides of Melrose Lane. We've lived on one side for about 30 years. We acquired the other properties over the last 2 years. The road is rarely used. There's alternatives for anyone that desires to go either towards Statesboro or toward I-16. And we've discussed the closure with all of our neighbors and the farmer who's currently farming the property. And they've all given their approval to us personally. So do you have any questions? We appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Yep.
Any additional public comments? You have anybody signed up against or, all right, then I'll now ask for a motion to close the floor to public comments.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Have a motion, second discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. I'll now ask for a motion on the resolution to abandon County Road number 228, also known as Melrose Road.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much. It is done. We have two items on the consent agenda. Approve the minutes from July 18th, 2023, and approve the purchase of 2 fire engines from Fireline in the amount of $1,505,054. We can vote on these collectively. No. We can move either one of these to, I guess, new business, or vote on them collectively. What's your,
Mr. Chairman, I think we can vote on them collectively.
Second.
have a motion and a second? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much.
Aye.
Next will be new business, and County Attorney Jeff Akins. I believe you were going to discuss an approval of an amendment to Chapter 3 of the Code of Ordinances of Bulloch County.
Yes, sir. And I'll try to be very brief on this. I think, yeah, Cindy has a copy of it on the screen. And what I did a red line version for you so that you could easily see what's being changed. The blue strike through is deleted language, and the red font is new language. And the first section there, section 5, 3.2A5, deletes county clerk and replaces it with development services division. And that's because the development services is now handling the alcohol license permits. So that change has been made throughout the ordinance. In section 6 and 7, we changed the percentage of alcohol from 21 to 24% in the definition of distilled spirits and fortified wine. And the reason for that is that's what the state law definition has. I don't know if the alcohol content has gone up in liquor, or if we just had it inconsistent with the state law to start with, but that is what it says now. All right, the next section, retail package licenses. This is the main reason for this amendment. It adds a license for package sales for off-premises consumption of distilled spirits. All right, moving on down. Let's see. Keep going, Cindy. Keep going. There we go. Okay. Section 357C, and this 357 has to do with distances, required distances from schools and churches and that kind of thing. We've added a provision, and this is out of the state law, that retail package sales businesses cannot be located within 500 yards of another retail licensed package business, unless that does not apply to any location for which a new license is applied for if the retail package sale of distilled spirits was lawful at such location at any time within the prior 12 months. And that provision is actually in the current ordinance as it applies to beer and wine sales. And again, that's state law. The distances are measured by the most direct route of travel on the ground. Section 3136, I just deleted malt beverages and wine and substituted alcoholic beverages, since we're adding distilled spirits. All right, section 3162 has to do with hours of sale. And you'll see that package sales of beer and wine and actually sales of distilled spirits and beer and wine for consumption on the premises are both allowed on Sundays from 12:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. We've added a provision that says package sales of distilled spirits for off-premises consumption shall be between the hours of 6 a.m. and 12 midnight on Monday through Saturday. So that is not going to be allowed on Sunday. And the reason why, you have to have a referendum in order to allow Sunday sales. We had a referendum on November 8th of 2011 for Sunday package sales of beer and wine that passed. We had one on March 6th of 2012 for Sunday sales of distilled spirits or alcoholic beverages, beer and wine by the drink. So we've done that. It's possible we could do one for distilled spirits if y'all want to consider that. Although I will tell you this, in my initial review of the statute that allows this, it doesn't look like there's an option just for distilled package sales of distilled spirits. It looks like you'd have to do distilled spirits and beer and wine together. And if we did that, there's always the possibility it could get defeated, and then beer and wine would no longer be legal. Sales would no longer be legal on Sunday. So that's something to consider. The point is, right now, without a referendum, we can't allow Sunday sales of package sales of distilled spirits. So if that's something you want to consider in the future, we can talk about it and look at the procedures that we need to follow. And I think that is basically it. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Yeah, question. In the past, the clerk of the board was basically doing the same thing, wasn't she?
Yes.
Well, the clerk of the board, yes, did handle alcohol licenses in the past, but it's now being handled by development services.
Yeah. If you recall, when we did the building renovation and so forth, the intent is to make development services sort of the, not sort of actually, the one-stop permitting and licensing center for the county, thus relieving the clerk's role for that. And it's probably a more natural placement anyway, because they can review zoning, make sure that occupational taxes are collected correctly. They're better staffed. They have 3 permit technicians who also serve as customer service representatives. So it just seemed more natural to make the corrective technical amendment by ordinances, merely to clarify where the responsibility should rest, given the circumstances I've explained.
So I guess I'm trying to understand, if the clerk was doing this, is she not going to be responsible for this anymore?
I think the job description had shifted when we had a transition in the position. Is that right?
That's correct. We started this change in July of last year, so it fell naturally within OTC and alcohol renewals. And so once we hired Ms. Mincy White, she has not dealt with any alcohol or occupational tax certificates since. Olympia did.
If I may add too, as the division director, we also work closely with the fire department, and they have fire inspections, and the building inspector goes prior to an OTC or alcohol license is issued, they go look at the premise as well, and make sure that it's a safe environment, as well as the zoning. But we have those inspections coming from our office, and we work again with the fire inspector to do that as well.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, Mr. Chairman. I do have some comments to make on just to streamline the alcohol ordinance in general, being in the position I've been in the past, and the sheriff can answer to this too. If you're gonna have it, you're gonna need to do a referendum on alcohol and beer and wine. Either have it on Sunday or don't have it on Sunday, because if you don't, you're gonna have liquor stores open saying they selling beer and wine, and it's gonna be for the sheriff to police in if they ain't selling liquor, and so it needs to be streamlined to either have the things open on Sunday or close them on Sunday, because it's just like having an establishment stating that they can be 18 years old to enter, but they got to be 21 to drink. There's no way under the sun that man there can control that. So it needs to be put before the voters of Bulloch County if they want them on Sunday or don't. I mean, you could do it where they could, I guess, you mix drinks, but as far as package sales of beer and wine in a liquor store, it needs to either be on Sunday or not, for all of it or none of it.
Okay. Well, there's certain dates that can be done. I think it's going to be into next year before we can get it on a referendum, but
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll
I mean,
have
we
to-
can start with the license and all, but I mean,
Yeah.
as far as we need to get it took care of as quick as we can and let the voters decide whether they want it or not. But there's no way the
Okay.
store owner or the sheriff can control it if it's not done that way.
Yeah. Next year being an election year, statewide, federal election, and county election too. It's going to have to be done in conjunction with one of the elections, either the primary or the general election, or it might be done on the presidential primary. I'll have to look at the statute and see. But do y'all want to do that as soon as possible? Is that?
I would suggest that, just to keep from getting all tangled up with get the sheriff tangled up in a bunch of mess. It's just make it slick.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Rushing on that.
Okay.
Going to the bootleg
All right, so we go ahead and vote on.
Yes, sir.
This
If there's
part
no
of
other
it.
questions or discussion,
And
you can just vote to approve the ordinance amendment as presented. If that's your pleasure.
and that would be only Saturday sales of.
Well, right now, yeah, the ordinance amendment does not allow for Sunday sales of
Well, that's a good thing,
liquor by the package. Yeah.
for
Because
my
it
sake.
can't until we have a referendum.
Okay, all right. And I'm gonna call for a motion.
I make a motion that we accept this amendment.
Second.
I have a motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands.
Aye.
All right. No. All right. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 2. Is Brad.
Brad Deal, County Engineer. So this motion is for approval of our resurfacing contract that we put out to bid. With the low bidder was Reeves Construction, in the amount of $2,524,950, and this is funded by T-Splost as well as the LMIG funds that we get from GDOT. The list this year has about 10 miles of roads on it, which is a little bit shorter than what we have had in the past. We used to be able to resurface about a mile of a road for about $150,000. Now it's about $250,000 for a mile of resurfacing. So that's kind of cut down what we've been able to do. But the list this year, I know it's in the packet, but we've got several roads in the Grove Lakes area, Longwood Drive, Meadow Drive, Slough Creek, South Pineview, and then we have Joe Hodges Road, Lotch Creek, P.W. Clifton, Randy Lowry Road South, Stilson Lane, West Side Road from Statesboro to the bypass, and Harris Street, Helen Court, Riggs Circle, and Woodrum Place. And I would recommend approval of this low bid. And just let me know if you have any questions.
Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve these bids.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Unanimous approval. Right. Thank you, Brad.
Commissioner Mosley, did you vote in favor of the motion? I think something might be going on with the audio for him. I can't hear him. I'm not sure what happened.
Then the ones that are present, it's still a unanimous vote. Correct, Jeff? Moving on to public comments. Now's the time, if you've signed up to speak, now's the time to step forward and state what's on your mind. State your name and address, and you have 5 minutes to tell us whatever you would like to tell us. Anybody signed up?
We had one person that signed up to speak on the, I don't have that sheet. We had one person.
Did you sign up? Okay, all right.
There was one person in front of me when I signed up.
All right, is anyone else here that has signed up? If they did, they must be gone, so you're up.
Okay. I'm Cassandra Michael. Once again, I'm here representing BullochTaxes.com this time. Discussion has been had with the sheriff, and the following are some of the issues that need to be addressed in order to keep an orderly process for the upcoming taxpayer hearings that are on August 7th, 14th, and 21st. If I may ask a few questions, Mr. Chairman. Will there be a time limit for each side for and against the massive increase in millage rate and property taxes, or will the same rules apply of 5 minutes per person?
At present time, we're looking at 5 minutes, and we will set a time limit as far as that the beginning time will be at 6:30.
Yes, sir.
We've not set the ending time at present time, but yes, there will be definite time factors.
Okay. Will Mr. Couch be doing a presentation like he did at the budget hearing?
That's still under discussion because at the budget hearing, there were, I think I took about 30 minutes.
Yes.
That may or may not have been excessive. We've thought about doing something a little bit more synchronized, but we'll do whatever
Or if you could like put it out maybe in advance so people could see it prior to the meeting.
Yes.
Okay. And I guess my concern is what happens if we have an overflow crowd that doesn't fit in this room? How are you going to handle that? We're expecting a lot of people.
Well, we'd have to utilize the corridor. If that doesn't hold them all, then that's a good question.
Well, I think.
I mean, we've dealt with certain people in the past who have called the fire marshal on us, and I just don't want that to happen.
I don't think that'll happen.
Okay.
I think if we're going to allow 5 minutes per person, and speculatively, if the meeting were only to last for a couple hours, you're only going to get so many people to speak. But we do have video out in the corridor, right? And then, of course, we're live streamed on Facebook, I think, or is it YouTube now?
It's on YouTube, but we link it over to our Facebook. And yes, we do have video out in the corridor. The only issue that we have at this moment is we would be relying on the audio coming from inside the room because there is not audio on that TV.
Okay, and then just final question: how long are you expecting? Like 2 hours, 3 hours? What do you think your cap time frame will be?
If the fire marshal comes in, probably about 10 minutes, we would qualify for having that
Well,
meeting.
assuming that we don't like totally go crazy, like 3 hours. I mean, we're at 3 hours today.
I think 2 hours is enough.
Well, I did ask for a meeting with you, Mr. Simmons. I'm sorry.
We're having 3 hearings, 3
Yes,
separate
we
days.
are.
So
We are.
I mean, the first one obviously is probably going to be more well attended than the last, but okay, that's all my questions.
Well, I would say this, somewhere between 2 hours and 3 hours.
Okay.
But hopefully that will be an ample amount of time because we don't really and truly, when I have a 3-hour meeting with 100 people standing up and saying, we don't want our taxes to go up. We heard the first one. So we're going to play that by ear.
Well, I think a lot of people also want to have their voices heard. I mean, if you have 100 people here all saying the same thing, then
yes,
it should speak to y'all.
Their voices can be heard,
Okay.
but there will be a stopping time.
Right, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking what to
I would
expect.
say between 2 to, well, I heard 2, 3. I would divide that and say 2.5 hours.
Okay.
If necessary.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, there's no one else signed up to speak under public comments. So now we will have staff comments. Any staff members like to say anything?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, if you'll yield.
Yes, sir.
I think I speak for the commission in thanking the sheriff's office and his personnel to help us with security tonight. Well, I don't think we expected any widespread panic. I think it was incumbent on the chairman to announce that we do have decorum policies in our code of ordinances and that they should be followed. I was at the planning and zoning meeting, and I wouldn't say it was there was an insane clown posse riot going on or anything like that, but at the same token, I think if Miss Marsh were here, she would have expressed there was a little bit of disrespectful comments and noise. So thank you again, Sheriff Brown. Is it Colonel Neesmith now? Colonel Thompson. Yeah. So one last thing I'd like to say as a comment, we have sort of a unique announcement to make tonight. As you know, we suffered a loss in our mind when Bronny Gaines left us as our community relations manager. But I think we are now fortunate to have this significant void filled. I think the commissioners are aware that we solicited, well, and some of the staff too, that especially HR, that we solicited and received applications to fill a reclassified position as communications director. And now that WTOC has made it public, we're pleased to announce that Dal Kennedy will be joining us and joining the county staff in that position. And I think he'll be a tremendous asset countywide and value added, just as Bronny was. So we expect him to come on board in September, and we look forward to having him join the Bulloch County family. And with that, that's all the comments I have this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And that was a great announcement. He will do a great job. Any other staff? Commissioner comments?
Commissioner Mosley just wanted, he's chatting with me over here. He says fantastic news, so just wanted to pass that along.
All right, and I will reserve I'm gonna keep my comments to myself tonight because of time. Walking in here, in my mind, popped out 8:33. As far as ending this meeting, so it could be that, and it could be a little bit shorter than that. So I'm compelled to read the following statement. I must now call for a motion to adjourn into executive session in accordance with the provisions OCGA-5469, OCGA 50B671, and OCGA 543B2, and other applicable laws pursuant to the advice of County Attorney Jeff Akins for the purpose of discussing personnel, real estate, and pending or potential litigation matters. We are now in executive session. I need a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor? Unanimous. We are now in executive session. Thank you for coming.